Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Saturday, May 31st, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will reach a high of 92.5 degrees Fahrenheit, with the low dipping to 67.3 degrees. So remember to stay hydrated and find some shade if you're spending time outdoors. Coming up on Alex's News, we'll explore why the tech giant Meta is now using artificial intelligence to help assess product safety. Then, we'll examine a critical issue impacting many lives as we look into how new work requirements are threatening health coverage for millions of people. All this and more is coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the program. Today, we're kicking off with a story that's really getting a lot of attention in the tech world and beyond. The parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, Meta Platforms, is undertaking a profound transformation in how it evaluates privacy and societal risks for its vast array of products. Joining us to break down this significant shift is our tech reporter, Ethan. Ethan, thanks for being with us this morning. This sounds like a pretty major change for Meta.
Grace, it absolutely is. We're talking about a real paradigm shift here. As of today, May 31st, 2025, Meta plans to automate up to 90% of its critical privacy and societal risk assessments. These are tasks that have historically been carried out by human evaluators. This move, as reported by National Public Radio, or NPR, with reporting by Bobby Allen and Shannon Bond, and confirmed by KRBD, Ketchikan Public Radio, via NPR News Archives, is certainly raising some eyebrows.
90% is a substantial number. So how were these assessments done before? What was the human element like, and how is this AI-powered system going to replace it?
Historically, Meta's product development cycle included what they called rigorous, quote, privacy and integrity reviews, quote. These were conducted by teams of human experts. These individuals would diligently identify potential issues, like privacy violations, harm to minors, or the spread of misleading or toxic content. It was a crucial safeguard, ensuring things like algorithm updates, new safety features, and changes to content-sharing policies were thoroughly scrutinized before reaching billions of users worldwide. Now, according to internal company documents obtained by NPR, an AI system will largely approve major updates and new features, largely bypassing routine human scrutiny.
So essentially, AI will be making the call on whether new features or updates are safe. How exactly will this work on a practical level for their product teams?
Well, Grace, the idea is that product teams will complete a questionnaire about their project and receive an, quote, instant decision quote from the AI. This AI will identify risk areas and necessary requirements. Engineers are then expected to make their own judgments about risks, verifying compliance with these AI-identified requirements before launching. Meta states this is meant to streamline decision-making and empower product developers, allowing for faster release of updates. They claim human expertise will still be reserved for, quote, novel and complex issues, quote, with only, quote, low-risk decisions, quote, being automated.
That sounds efficient, but I can imagine there are some serious concerns about allowing an algorithm to make such critical determinations, especially given AI's track record. What are current and former Meta employees saying about this?
You hit the nail on the head, Grace. Despite Meta's assurances, current and former employees are expressing serious fears that this automation drive will come, quote, at the cost of allowing AI to make tricky determinations about how Meta's apps could lead to real-world harm, quote, as reported by NPR. Critics are warning of, quote, higher risks, quote, and less rigorous scrutiny. They argue that product managers and engineers, who are incentivized by launch speed, are, quote, not privacy experts, quote, and this could lead to superficial, quote, box-checking exercises that miss significant risks. Alarmingly, sensitive areas under consideration for automation include AI safety, youth risk, violent content, and falsehoods. Some insiders are even linking these changes to a broader strategic shift at Meta towards, quote, unrestrained speech, quote, and faster app updates.
That's quite the concern, especially when we think about how quickly harmful content can spread on these platforms. We've certainly seen plenty of examples of AI struggling with content moderation in the past. Can you remind us of some of those failures that illustrate why people might be wary of this new move?
Absolutely, Grace. The skepticism is well-founded. AI systems consistently struggle with the context, nuance, slang, satire, and irony inherent in human communication. This leads to both false positives, where legitimate content is incorrectly removed, and false negatives, where harmful content is missed. For instance, according to NPR, Facebook employees reportedly estimated that a vast majority, 99.4%, of content-violating policies against violence and incitement remained on the platform because A, I struggled with detection. And during the 2020 to 2022 Tigray War, platforms like Facebook reportedly failed to adequately moderate genocidal content due to insufficient language support, allowing hate speech to proliferate. On the flip side, we've seen false positives, such as Facebook's AI incorrectly removing the historic, quote, Napalm Girl, quote, photo in 2016 due to nudity, or, more recently, mistakenly flagging posts from the Auschwitz Museum. During the pandemic, YouTube's increased reliance on AI led to a surge in false positives, with educational content mistakenly removed. These failures aren't abstract. They've been directly linked to real-world harm, including the amplification of violent content during Myanmar's 2021 coup.
It sounds like a complex web of challenges for AI. Given these documented limitations, what about regulatory bodies? Are they keeping an eye on this, especially with Meta's history of privacy concerns?
They certainly are, Grace. This decision by Meta comes under the vigilant eye of global regulators. Meta has been under a Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, consent decree since 2012 regarding user data handling, which has mandated privacy reviews for products. While no specific public statements from the FTC directly addressing Meta's new AI risk assessment automation have been identified since NPR's May 31, 2025 report, the FTC has consistently reiterated its focus on AI through its consumer protection and competition mission. They stated in January 2025 that there is no AI exemption from existing laws.
And what about users in Europe? Do they have different protections given the EU's strong stance on data privacy and AI regulation?
They do, Grace. According to NPR, users within the European Union are expected to be, quote, somewhat insulated, quote, from these changes. Decision-making and oversight for products and user data in the EU will reportedly remain with Meta's European headquarters in Ireland. This is largely due to robust regulations like the Digital Services Act, or DSA, and the broader EU AI Act. The Irish Data Protection Commission, or DPC, has been actively engaging with Meta regarding its use of personal data to train large language models in the EU, ensuring compliance with the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. Meta informed the DPC in March 2024 of its plans to use public Facebook and Instagram content to train its AI. After concerns were raised, Meta paused these plans in June 2024. The DPC sought an opinion from the European Data Protection Board, or EDPB, to gain EU-wide clarity, which it received in December 2024. Consequently, as of May 21, 2025, Meta informed the DPC of its intent to begin training its generative AI models starting May 27, 2025. The DPC has approved Meta's updated approach, but requires a comprehensive report by October 2025 evaluating the effectiveness of the new safeguards.
So it sounds like Europe is really emphasizing that human oversight. What specific EU regulations come into play here?
Precisely. The EU's Digital Services Act, which entered into force on August 1, 2024, and will be fully applicable by August 2, 2026, mandates that very large online platforms like Meta conduct regular risk assessments and mitigate systemic risks. They are obligated to submit assessments to the European Commission annually and, crucially, before deploying new functions. Also, the EU's AI Act, which entered into force on August 1, 2024, with some provisions applying sooner, including rules for general-purpose AI models that will become applicable in August 2025, specifically emphasizes human oversight for, quote, high-risk, quote, AI systems. It mandates mechanisms for human operators to intervene or override AI decisions. The requirement for continued human oversight at Meta's Irish headquarters aligns with these stringent EU regulatory expectations, underscoring that human judgment and intervention are deemed essential in Europe.
Ethan, it sounds like Meta is attempting a digital data mining operation of sorts to streamline their risk assessments with AI, but regulators are keeping a close watch. It's a complex and continually evolving story that really highlights the tension between innovation and safety. Thank you so much for breaking all of this down for us.
My pleasure, Grace.
That was story 1 of 2 today. When we come back, we will shift gears and bring you what is next. Welcome back. We're turning now to a story that could significantly impact millions of low-income Americans, especially here in California. A controversial new federal proposal, H.R. 1, also known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, aims to impose new work requirements on Medicaid recipients. It is a measure that opponents say is anything but beautiful for those who could lose their health coverage. For more on this, we turn to our reporter Chloe, who has been following the legislative twists and turns. Chloe, what exactly does this bill propose, and who would be affected?
Grace, this bill, which passed the House on May 22, 2025, and is now under consideration in the U.S. Senate, targets adults aged 19 to 64. Specifically, it focuses on those who do not have children or a disability and who qualify for Medicaid through the Affordable Care Act's expansion. These individuals would be required to log at least 80 hours per month of community engagement, which includes employment, school, or volunteer work to maintain their health coverage. There are some exemptions for pregnant women, parents or caregivers of young children, and individuals with mental or physical disabilities. These work requirements would kick in on December 31, 2026, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services is tasked with developing guidance by December 31, 2025.
That sounds like a significant change. What kind of impact could this have, particularly for California, which has a very large Medi-Cal population?
The impact here in California could be substantial, Grace. Our state's Medicaid program, Medi-Cal, currently covers almost 15 million people. An analysis projects that between 1.2 and 1.4 million low-income Californians could lose coverage by 2026. Other estimates suggest the number of Medi-Cal participants at risk could be even higher, potentially between 2.3 to 3.5 million, depending on implementation. The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, estimates the overall bill could lead to 7.6 million people losing Medicaid coverage nationally, including 3.4 million in California. Beyond the work requirements, H.R. 1 also proposes requiring income verification every 6 months instead of annually, and it would financially penalize states like California that use state-only funds to provide non-emergency Medicaid coverage to undocumented individuals. This could really give the system a workout.
It sounds like a lot of people could be caught in the crossfire. What is the rationale behind these proposed requirements, and what are the main arguments against them?
Proponents, such as House Speaker Mike Johnson and the 9 California House Republicans who voted in favor, argue that these rules have a moral component and prevent, quote, defrauding the system. They see it as a fair ask for able-bodied individuals, asserting that reforms are necessary to control spending, prevent fraud, and ensure Medicaid's long-term viability. However, health policy researchers and California Democrats, including Representative Laura Friedman, strongly oppose the measure. They argue that the government should help people stay healthy and that these requirements would increase uncompensated care costs for hospitals. Opponents emphasize that these policies do not boost employment, but instead caused thousands of eligible people to lose insurance due to administrative hurdles and difficulty in proving work hours.
That's a strong point about administrative hurdles. Have we seen similar policies implemented in other states? And what were the outcomes there?
We have, Grace, and the results have been rather telling. Past attempts at implementing similar state-imposed work rules have largely failed. For instance, Arkansas in 2018 required adults aged 30 to 49 to document 80 work hours per month. Within 6 months, over 18,000 adults lost coverage, primarily due to confusion, difficulties with the online reporting system, and lack of awareness, rather than failure to work. Studies found no significant increase in employment. A federal judge then struck down the requirement in 2019. New Hampshire faced similar challenges in 2019 with its stricter 100-hour monthly requirement, and despite efforts to improve upon Arkansas's outreach, the state suspended its policy due to widespread confusion. Georgia is currently the only state with active Medicaid work requirements, which began enrollment in July 2023. However, as of early 2025, only about 6,500 individuals had enrolled, significantly short of the estimated 175,000 to 240,000 potentially eligible individuals.
So it seems the administrative burden is a major sticking point. What are the legislative prospects for H.R. 1 in the Senate, and what are the financial implications if it passes?
The bill is with the Senate now, Grace, and they have a self-imposed deadline of July 4, 2025, which is just 34 days away, to finalize the budget reconciliation package. It faces an uncertain future and is expected to undergo significant revisions. While some Republican senators have expressed concerns about the potential impact on their states, there's a general expectation that the Senate will embrace the introduction of work requirements for many adult Medicaid recipients, arguing for spending control and fraud prevention. Democrats, however, remain strongly opposed, citing CBO projections of millions losing coverage and warning of increased uncompensated care. Financially, the nationwide impact could lead to 4.6 to 5.2 million adults losing coverage in 2026, potentially cutting federal funding to states by $33 billion to $46 billion in the first year alone. California, which received $90 billion in federal funding for Medi-Cal in 2023, stands to face substantial financial consequences, including state estimates of $30 billion in cuts if these provisions pass.
Chloe, thank you for breaking down what could be a very significant change for many Californians. We appreciate your insights.
My pleasure, Grace.
Here are some other headlines. First up, a mother is offering more than just a slice of advice in her new book. Jessica Slice, a mom of 2 living with an autonomic nervous system disorder called POTS, which she developed after a strenuous hike on Santorini, is sharing her journey in Unfit Parent, a disabled mother challenges an inaccessible world. Her experiences parenting through adoption and gestational surrogacy, while managing a condition that can make even standing a tall order, taught her the crucial lesson of interdependence. Slice argues that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness but a strength, drawing on disability justice principles like mutual aid and fighting, quote, corrosive perfectionism. She believes society's fear of disability pressures parents to appear invincible, but suggests parenting itself is an unknowing dance with disability, inherently involving needing care. By embracing our limitations, she contends, we find more joy and honesty, a lesson she learned as her disability predated her parenthood, freeing her from the pressure of perfect parenting. Elsewhere, communities are brewing up some wonderful support with the rise of memory cafes. These aren't your average coffee shops. They're welcoming social gatherings for individuals experiencing memory changes or dementia, along with their caregivers and families. The focus is on connection, not conditions, with no formal diagnosis needed to pull up a chair. Attendees can enjoy engaging activities like music, art, and storytelling, all while sipping on refreshments. These cafes are serving up a vital dose of support, helping to combat the isolation that often accompanies dementia for both the person affected and their caregivers. They're creating dementia-friendly spaces, reducing stigma, and improving well-being, often free of charge in accessible spots like libraries and community centers. From Bunbury, Western Australia to initiatives supported by Dementia Friendly America, these cafes are truly making memories matter, offering much more than just food for thought. In Connecticut, lawmakers are towing a new line on vehicle repossession. House Bill 7162, which passed with strong bipartisan support and awaits Governor Lamont's signature, is set to overhaul the state's century-old towing laws this October. Prompted by an investigation from the Connecticut Mirror and ProPublica that revealed predatory practices, the reform aims to give drivers a fairer shake. Previously, vehicles valued under $1,500 could be sold off in just 15 days. The new law extends this, ensuring a sale isn't finalized until 30 days post-tow, with stricter notice requirements via certified mail. Towing from private property will face new restrictions, requiring owner permission and photos unless a vehicle is an immediate obstruction. Say goodbye to cash-only demands, as companies must now accept credit cards, and vehicle owners will be allowed to retrieve personal belongings, even if fees are unpaid. Furthermore, if a tow is deemed illegal by the DMV, the property manager will be on the hook for the costs. It's a heavy lift for consumer protection, ensuring fairness and transparency without undercutting ethical tow operators. Turning to a case that's not a pretty picture, the former owner of a prominent We Buy Ugly Houses franchise, Charles Carrier, is set to plead guilty in a fraud scheme. Federal prosecutors allege Carrier, through his Dallas-based CNC Residential Properties, ran a Ponzi scheme that defrauded about 80 investors out of nearly $40 million since 2018. He's agreed to plead guilty to one count of felony wire fraud, admitting to the broader scheme, and will pay restitution. This charge carries a potential 20-year prison sentence. Homevestors of America had already terminated Carrier's franchise in October 2024 after a tip-off and is now suing him for trademark infringement. This development follows a revealing ProPublica report on how Carrier was allegedly building a house of cards with investor money. And in Alameda County, California, a new district attorney is causing a stir by withdrawing from a historic death penalty resentencing effort. This move by DA Ursula Jones Dixon reverses actions taken by her predecessor, Pamela Price. The original review, ordered by a federal judge, stemmed from evidence of systemic prosecutorial misconduct, specifically the exclusion of Black and Jewish jurors in death penalty cases, highlighted by notes in Ernest Dyke's 1995 case. Price's office had found further evidence of bias and initiated resentencing for several inmates, with some, like Dykes, expecting release. Now, Dixon is halting these proceedings for at least 4 individuals, raising grave concerns about accountability for past injustices and the future of these capital cases, all against the backdrop of California's statewide moratorium on executions. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.